Welcome to my movement analysis presentation. So I had case B. A little bit of background about the case. Marcus is a 72-year-old male with a history of a left CVA 3 years ago, primarily affecting his right lower extremity movements, standing and walking. He's had some recent fall episodes, one involving a dark movie theater and the other while moving boxes around in his basement. He is frustrated. His wife is noticing that he is more cautious with his daily activities and being out within the community and doing things outside, as well as reducing the amount of time that he's walking outside during winter because increased risk of falling. So he has been referred to outpatient physical therapy to address his balance deficits. So with Marcus coming into the clinic, I will first start with a subjective, thorough history as noted in that first portion of the examination, and then move into a observational movement analysis. So we'll start by picking two primary activities for this case with Marcus, and I will first have him demonstrate a sit to stand, get a quick measurement just at the level of ASIS, PSIS to assess if there's any imbalances, and then the first task that I want Marcus to do is move to a single leg stance with my hands are out for balance support. And then the task single leg stance, if his condition is good that day and he's feeling strong, then we'll move to an AirX pad and test this on both sides. If he is not feeling sturdy today, then we can have him stand on one leg with assistance from a railing, from a countertop, the use of my hands, some object that we have in the clinic. The second task that I will want to have Marcus perform in my observational movement analysis is watching Marcus do some gait activities. So I'll start by having him do a normal pass of gait, see if there is any impairments within that, and then my secondary task that I would like to see him complete is a heel to toe walk. If his balance, again, if he's having a good day, he's feeling well, I'll progress this to a contact guard or a standby assist on my end, a heel to toe walk with his eyes closed. Obviously with me guarding him with a gait belt and there for safety. The other, if he is needing a regression on this day, or if his balance is not feeling steady, he's not doing as well on this day, then I would move to a narrower stance tandem walk. So he's still walking forward direction, just a narrower stance rather than just that heel toe walk, even narrower base of support. And then tying this into outcome measure for Marcus, I will tie this into having him perform the Berg balance scale as we continue to move through the objective exam. Depending on the results of his heel toe walk and how his balance is in that narrow stance, then we will progress to a Berg balance scale as part of one of his outcome measures within later on in the objective. For both of those, I gave some probable findings for CAS, and then I'll just describe it for the gait in his heel toe sequencing. So his control of the heel to toe walk, he had smoothness, coordination, timing, and his alignment of tasks were all within those normal limits. The amount, he was able to complete the task within that narrow stance. However, he did have a decreased step length, shortened on that right side. For speed, he had the total time of both the heel toe walk and then placing one foot in front of the other was diminished. So diminished speed in both of these. And then symmetry, a little bit of asymmetry, so a slight asymmetry on the right side. And then symptoms, it was reproducing his kinesiophobia when I asked him to close his eyes. So based on the two tasks and the outcome measure that I am going to look at in the rest of my examination. I will use the 4-element model to additionally use some different tests and measures and other areas of instability related to muscle strength in order to find his primary impairments and his limitations. So within motion, I will perform and plan to perform active and passive range of motion on lower extremities and goniometer measurements for hip flexion, knee flexion, internal and external rotation, plantar and dorsiflexion. And in force, I would perform lower extremity manual muscle testing and handheld dynamometry to see where his individual strength is at. Energy. Ideally, we would be able to do a 6-minute walk test with him. Depending on how he is feeling this day, then I may abbreviate that to a 2-minute walk test in order to compensate for the ideal measurement, which I am looking to test in the 4-element model here, which is within motor control. I would really like to complete a full Berg balance test with him. Obviously, if he is not feeling as balanced or as strong today, then we can do a shortened Berg balance test, or I can move it to the 2-minute walk test as an abbreviated version for either of those. So within motion, it was found that he did have right ankle dorsiflexion deficits and deficits in all of his angular measurements in goniometry for right ankle, knee, and hip. Within force, in his lower extremity manual muscle tests and in handheld dynamometry on that lower extremity, then he did have additional right lower extremity weakness, particularly in dorsi and plantar flexors and in his quads. His manual muscle testing also showed he was able to do it in gravity position, but weakness in hip flexion. So he was scored a 3 out of 5 in hip flexion. In energy, 6-minute walk test, which we did abbreviate down to the 2-minute version of this, it was shown that he did have more, or he had increased fatigue in this activity. It wasn't too apparent in the 2-minute walk test just because that was shortened, but because he was already having fatigue prior to us even completing the test, I think he would have had even more increased or exacerbated fatigue during the 6-minute walk test. And then lastly, I created a Berg balance scale for Marcus, and it was shown that he did get a 48, which is at a moderate risk for fall. The order in the 4-element model that I chose to follow was motion first, so that way I can move him from the waiting room into treatment room and immediately just have him sit on the edge of the plinth and then test kind of ranges of motion when he ends up lying down. So first, testing his lower extremity manual muscle testing in the force category and the handheld dynamometry while edge of the plinth, and then have him lay down quickly for active and passive range of motion in that lower extremity. From there, after getting all of the measurements, I chose to have him stand back up so that way we can complete Berg balance test, which is a mixture of standing and sitting activities. And then we ended with the 6-minute walk test or the 2-minute walk test. Classifying them into the ICF framework, I started with Marcus's primary impairment being balance deficits as shown by that Berg, and his initial measures that I tested during his tasks within heel to toe walking and the inability to do so with eyes closed. So his primary activity limitation as well was difficulty walking and stairs. Classifying the other findings into the ICF model, within his health condition, he has post-stroke balance deficit, which have increased and related to recent falls. His impairments, all of the strength, mobility, motor control, and energy findings that did have deficits come out of them, all fall under impairments, with his primary impairment being balance deficits. His primary activity limitation being difficulty walking and stairs, and then participation restrictions, having that reduced interest in doing tasks around the house, going outdoors if the weather is inclement, or interest in social or community events, such as going to anywhere where there will be a dimly lit environment, for that increasing his risk of falls. In environmental factors, dim lighting and weather are listed in environmental because it is in dimly lit or poorly lit areas where he is having the most issues with that balance. And then in his home, he does have 4 steps to enter. So because stairs are another potential area where he struggles with his balance, then that can be a big portion of his environmental. And then in personal factors, the emotional impact and his withdrawn self. His wife has started to notice that he has less interest, he has a diminished mood. All of that goes into his personal factors. And then lastly, my PT evaluation statement for Marcus is: Marcus presents to PT with a history of the left cerebrovascular accident causing right lower extremity weakness, balance deficits, and gait abnormalities, increasing his fall risk. After 2 recent falls, he has limited outdoor mobility due to his fear. Exam findings show impaired strength, proprioception, and postural control, affecting his walking, stair navigation, and ADLs. Marcus will benefit from strength, gait, and stair training, fall prevention, and endurance exercises to improve his overall safety, confidence, and function. Marcus's prognosis is good with consistent physical therapy. And that is my motor control case.